Satchidanandam Paramasukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Dilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Jai Guru, Jai Ma. Hello friends, happy YogaFrost. I've decided to sit next to a nice warm fire in the spirit of warming our hearts during the middle of winter. Yes, I am in California now, in Southern California, and you may be surprised that I'm sitting next to a fire, but how else would we survive, us Californians, when it gets down to 48 degrees, you know? So, but this is a really wonderful time to gather together, and in my mind I'm visualizing so many of you who I know, and of course there's many who I don't know, and we're trying to be together during a time of separation, a time of isolation, and we're using technology. When I look into this camera, which is very impersonal, of course, I nevertheless feel connected with everyone. I feel connected with you and those of you who I know. And it reminds me of a recording of Paramahansa Yogananda. There's about, I think, 5 or 6 recordings of his voice, and to me those are just treasures. I have listened to each recording hundreds and hundreds of times, and they give so much blessing and so much insight into his nature. You know, his voice, his inflections, his humor, his ecstasy. It's all in there. And in one of those recordings, he says, "Modern science is more and more proving through television and the radio that space is linked, and something about how we're united and connected through the ether." And I think of that right now. That comes to my mind, that modern science is proving that space is linked, and what he teaches is that space is connected in what he called as super ether. So we know what the ether is, and that's where a lot of these waves travel. And well, we have the Ethernet cables and things like that. But a super ether, and it is linked. It is connected. There is no distance. Our distance is an illusion. And so this is where a lot of the teachings of yoga and of this ancient dharma starts to sound a little bit like a sci-fi movie. In fact, Star Trek, we learned later that the founder of it, or the creator of it, got one of his ideas from reading the autobiography of a yogi back in the 60s when he was having his own spiritual search. And he got some of the inspirations about how the body materializes and dematerializes. So anyhow, science fiction may actually be more rooted in truth than we realize. So in that spirit, I just want to acknowledge that we are connected now, and that through this super ether, there is a link. There is a link, and it's a divine link that brings us together. This is such a special idea, it's a unique opportunity. The staff, my friends at Song of the Morning and others really wanted to do something for all of you and for the community, specifically in the winter, because this is such a unique time. And rather than waiting all the way until summer for a yoga fest, to do something now when, at least in northern Michigan and that part of the country, it's still winter. And it's an opportunity just naturally to have more seclusion. As we know, the seasons are very special and they have a certain influence on our being. And I, being a native Californian, I miss those winters where you can be more interiorized. We do have a little bit of it here, and I've always loved December, January, just for that reason. The life force retracts. It retracts and goes within, not only in nature, but in our own being. And we have more time indoors and also more nighttime. Nighttime, they often say night is the yogi's day. So the yogi kind of comes alive or wakes up at night, because when the world, when the outside world slows down or is more quiet, that's the time when the yogi more easily goes within. And that inner time, that inward time, is a very beautiful time. But it can also be, for some, it can feel isolated, it can feel, I heard of something called seasonal depression. I didn't even know that existed until I visited Michigan and talked with some of the devotees there, and I started to learn about, the cycles of life that you have. And then you put on top of that this unique period of time we're going through in the world, where because of the pandemic, we have less interaction, physical interaction with people. And of course that brings up so much. It brings up so much. And I have been looking at it not only from learning about it from a social perspective or from a health perspective, but I've also really been looking at myself in a perspective of yoga sadhana, and specifically the important part of yoga sadhana and of Sanatana Dharma, which is renunciation. And renunciation is not a popular word in our culture and our society here, but it is one of the pillars of India's ancient civilization and present-day civilization. In fact, a few days ago was Republic Day, January 26th, which is the day that India formed a new republic after finally being independent from British and Muslim rule. The flag that was created has the three colors, and one of the colors is saffron. And saffron, that color, represents renunciation. And as far as I know, it's the only national flag in the world that specifically has a color that officially means renunciation. It is one of the hallmarks of the spiritual path, the spiritual teaching that India has shared with the world through Paramahansa Yogananda and many others who left India to spread and to share this way. And but renunciation, my goodness, I mean, what makes the ego sort of uncomfortably wiggle in its plastic throne? Renunciation? What do you mean? What do I have to give up exactly? Do I have to give up everything? Do I have to give up this? Do I have to give up that? But renunciation is necessary, and there are many words in Sanskrit that are associated with renunciation. There's tyag, there's vairagya, there's sannyas, and oftentimes these are translated as dispassion, non-attachment, renunciation, casting aside. And I would say in English, a lot of these have a negative connotation. It sounds like cutting your arm off or something, and and there is some truth to that. I know that in one of the talks again of Paramahansa Yogananda, he recites that verse from the Bible, "If thy hand offend thee, cut it off." And he's referring more to certain parts of our character, of our ego, that it's better to just cut them off, cut them away. But what about less obvious forms of renunciation? What about, okay, it's easy, we can say, yes, we must renounce what a lot of us would consider a worldly life, whatever. I mean, that's variety of things. Maybe from our upbringing, some people who had some religious upbringing might think of temptation. The temptations of the world, the trappings of the world, and those have to be renounced. But what about when it's a lot more subtle and a lot more close to the heart? And I think that's partly what has been the experience of everyone I know during the pandemic, and I know a lot of people. And it's a involuntary renunciation of sorts. That's what it seems like to me, an involuntary renunciation. And boy, does that ever get the ego fired up. When there is a desire that is thwarted, so any kind of desire, when it is not fulfilled, usually the result is anger. Anger springs from a thwarted desire, and so we see that. Another result of a sort of a involuntary renunciation is sadness as well, a sense of loss, And in that forced renunciation, in that isolated emptiness, wow, a lot comes up. And I don't think I need to dwell on that much because so many of you have been feeling it. And I have observed in myself, but also even more so, more extremes when I've looked outside to see, even within a spiritual community, bursts of anger and frustration, criticism, because they're just, you can't take it anymore. I need to get out. Depression, sadness, this emptiness, this feeling of imprisonment. That has metamorphosed also into an appreciation of what do we have, and so on and so forth. So I would like to look a little bit into renunciation and specifically connect it to a very sacred chant that that has been very special to me in my life, and was also special to Yoganandaji, and is something that I think all of you can benefit from. And I hope that it will help cope with, in a spiritual way, help cope with the renunciation that we are faced with. I would say that when renunciation is willing, it is an act of courage, of sacrifice, and of love, and that is why it is upheld in such a high regard in India and in the Dharma faith. Renunciation, to let go of something willingly for something greater, to sacrifice something that is dear for something greater. It gives me chills when I just think of it. I get chills because sacrifice and love are interrelated. There's a flip side to renunciation, which is like a negative renunciation, which is a rejection, a casting away. And sometimes that is necessary, and it seems to result in just desolate nothingness. Like you've renounced something, but there's nothing to take its place. And that is part of the courage that is necessary in the spiritual path. I wish I could say that it wasn't necessary, but it is. Everything I've read, it is. And I would say that with whatever time we have left with this crisis that the globe is in, to try to take advantage of it and see it as a sacrifice coming from love, and to see the renunciation as an act of courage, so that the soul can learn from the experience and say, okay, many of the things that I need, and many of the things I want, and many of the things that I lean on, many of my crutches, I can't have them anymore. But and it's forced, and that's where some of the resentment is coming. Like if someone were to take this from me right now, hey, give me back my book, right? But if someone came by who I loved, I could say, here, please take this book. what a big difference. But in both scenarios, I've lost the book. I've lost it. I don't have it anymore. It's not mine. One of them, I'm resenting it, and I'm trying to go after that person, and I'm angry. Or maybe I'm sad because I don't know who stole it, but the next day I come and my book is gone. And it's like, where is it? I don't have my book anymore. You know. But when we willingly give something in sacrifice and in love, and something dear, you know, they say, well, renouncing something that you don't want. Sorry, but you don't get any much glory in that. Sri Yukteswar often made that point about a particular person who came to his ashram after he was failed in his business. He lost his money, he lost his wife, and he was going through a crisis, and he really had nothing. And he came to Sri Yukteswar and he said, I want to renounce the world. And Sri Yukteswar gave him some loving counsel and sent him on his way. But then he looked to the disciples and he said, he wanted to renounce the world, but the world renounced him. So not much traction there as far as the soul making a sacrifice. So some of the things that are dearest to us, including what we would call our rights. I mean, talk about something that's dear to you. Not even a possession, but something that you consider to be your right. If that's taken away from you, wow, what a thing that comes out of it. And rather than, and I don't want to look at the social issues behind this, but on the soul level, what is our right? What is our right as a soul? The scriptures say that our deepest needs and our deepest need and the deepest right of our soul is Satchitananda, to eternally exist and be conscious of that existence. So to live eternally, to be eternal, which means no death. So immortality. But to be aware of it, I mean, we have to have that consciousness that we can enjoy what we have instead of being unconscious of something. And the last is Ananda, which is bliss, ever-new bliss, joy. And it is said that joy is actually at the heart of love. So when we say our deepest need or our deepest desire is love, or to be loved, that is true, but partly because it brings us joy. It brings an unending bliss, Ananda. And obviously, if those are taken away from us by external sources, that rattles our being. But can it be taken away? Now, I just want to make a disclaimer here. I'm not trying to justify very extreme cases of like slavery or extreme crimes against humanity or abuses. I'm not talking about that. That's a different category where different laws go into effect. That's not happening right now. And so it is an opportunity, because that's not happening. It's not an extreme thing like that, where we can look at ourselves and ask the tough questions. What is it that I think is my right? Is that an ego attachment, or is it something? And if it is something that is dear to me, am I willing to let it go for a greater cause? Am I willing to sacrifice? Can I be a renunciant for 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, 2 years? Even though I didn't want to, can I be? Can I be a sannyasi? Even though some of this has been taken away from me, even though I'm forced to be in seclusion and I can't go see the people I want, and I can't go out and go to a favorite restaurant or something, or I can't go see a movie, bit by bit, I can't go to school, can't see my friends. The list is long. And we're all going through it. But in that, and it's also happening during winter. So when this retraction happens in winter, which is also happening globally with the pandemic, and we're huddled inside, and we're inside a house or a room, and we're inside our own mind and inside our own being. The turbulence that comes from that. Breathe. And that's what part of this YogaFrost is to warm the heart and to restore hope and recognize that this is an opportunity. I mean, Divine Mother has put it before us. It's our plight, but it could be a gift. Someone had once said to me, "Is life only a test, or is life a gift? Is what's happening right now only a test, or is it a gift? Is it an opportunity to find the gold that is in renunciation, that is in the cave, deep in the cave of renunciation and of sacrifice?" So, in that spirit of renunciation, which again, I hesitated a little bit, thinking about you all and thinking about YogaFrost, and I thought, do I really need to talk about renunciation after everything that everybody's been through? But it just kept coming to me stronger and stronger, and that's why I wanted to share this. It's connected to the chant by the great Adi Shankaracharya, or Swami Shankara, or Adi Shankara. He was a great soul, a great reformer. Paramahansa Yogananda went as far as to consider him an avatar, as many do. Paramahansa Yogananda translated a portion of that into an English chant. No birth, no death, no caste have I, father, mother have I none. I am he, blessed spirit, I am he. And this song in its core, in my life, and certainly in the philosophy behind it, is a renunciation. It is a song of renunciation, but there's two types of renunciation, negative and positive. A negating renunciation says, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not that. And that comes from part of the Jnana Yoga path, and part of Advaita and other in Vedanta. It will be neti, not this, not this, not this. It's a way of identifying what is false. It's pointing out all of the things that are not true, not reality, so that what is left is reality, is truth. So it is a great method, a great way of wisdom, of jnana, and also of tyag, of this renunciation. But the positive way of renunciation affirms, I am free, I am bliss, I am spirit, because by affirming that, you are also, indirectly releasing the other things. So there's two ways of going about renunciation. Renunciation in a negative sense, where you're constantly negating and casting, can result in a little bit of a sourness, a sour disposition, where you're continuously denying yourself something. But the other side, the joyous renunciation, the positive renunciation, is what this chant is. This chant. In the autobiography of a yogi, which if you haven't read it, please do, and if you have read it, please read it again. The part about the chapter, I become a monk of the Swami order. In that chapter, so he's young Mukunda, when he takes that vow of sannyas. Sannyas also means to cast aside, and sannyas is the phase of freedom and renunciation in life. Sannyas can happen at any time in life willingly, and when one chooses sannyas, they become a sannyasi, and that is connected usually to the Swami order, which was founded by Shankara, or rearranged by Shankara. It existed before Adi Shankaracharya, but he restructured it. There are other ways to renounce, and there are sannyasis that are not connected with that, these dashanami of Shankara. But everyone enters into a sannyas phase, and usually if one chooses a path of being a householder, or being in the world in that sense, it will be the last part of life. The last phase of life is also considered sannyas. And think about it, renunciation is happening. And some of it is involuntary, and that is some of the frustration that the soul goes through entering into those stages of what we call old age, where certain things that the body provided, certain experiences, certain abilities, are being taken away. And there's nothing you can do about it. And that brings out a frustration, when a elderly person gets their driver's license revoked. I mean, that is frustrating. That is an involuntary renunciation. But when someone consciously goes into that stage of life, from the busyness of life and then to a semi-retirement, which is called vanaprastha, the forest dwelling, the final stage is a sannyas, to willingly prepare to leave this world. And you will see oftentimes even a married couple will enter into that stage of life, and they will sometimes wear only white and start giving things away to people. And oftentimes they are being cared for by their children or by an ashram, and they begin to serve in a particular type of ashram that is dedicated to that purpose. So sannyas is inevitable. Sannyas is something that all of us will experience, and it can be joyous. It can be a joyous renunciation. Just like now we're all getting a practice at it. So in that chapter, after Paramahansa Yogananda receives sannyas, he says in the autobiography, I sang a few verses from Adi Shankara's chant, and I danced with joy. Talk about joyous renunciation. The moment that he renounced the world and became Swami Yogananda, he danced, singing that song. So that is the spirit of it. This is not, he didn't sit down and cry and sing it. Although you will see in this song, it can bring up all of those emotions. First, I would like to sing Paramahansa Yogananda's cosmic chant, adaptation of this chant. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother have I none. I am he, blessed spirit, I am he. I'm forgetting the next words, but once I sing it, it'll come. No birth, no death, no caste have I. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother have I none. Father, mother have I none. I am he, blessed spirit, I am he. I am he, blessed spirit, I am he. Mind nor intellect, nor ego citta. Mind nor intellect, nor ego citta. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. I am he, blessed spirit, I am he. I am he, blessed spirit, I am he. Such a joyous song, and when I first heard it, I intuitively knew that it was something amazing, but I did not understand it. Sky, nor earth, nor metal, I didn't understand, and I didn't know what chitta was, and I saw in the book in parentheses it said feeling, so I thought, okay, I'm not mind or intellect, ego or feeling, but I always loved it, so I continued to sing it, trusting that it would awaken within me an intuitive perception And that's what happens in the spiritual life. Many things we don't understand, but you do it anyway. You trust the guru who is showing the way, knowing that what will happen is the understanding will be revealed internally. The intuitive perceptions will come. And so in that regard, in one sense, we don't need a translation. But when I was a monk in the ashram, in the SRF ashram, I found a tape, or it was given to me by one of the swamis from India who was visiting us. He gave me a tape, several tapes, and I listened to them because he saw that I had these samskaras for India. And one of them in particular I loved so much, and I kept learning it, and I asked him if he could write the words for me. So he wrote it down, the Sanskrit, and I learned how to sing it from that. And as I was reading it, I said, "But this seems very familiar." So I went back to him and said, "Is this the same one as I am He, Blessed Spirit?" He said, "Yes, it is." So I'm always grateful to him, and I knew that Master wanted me to have that chant. So I learned it. The Swami went back to India, and I was kind of on my own learning this. But over the years, I started to learn more about it and discover more about it. One of the things that I discovered was in the original Whispers from Eternity. In the back of the book, there is a section of chants, without music, but it's chants. It just says chants, and it has certain songs like "Make Me the Sea" from a Bengali song, "Oh God Beautiful" from Guru Nanak. He has also "I Am He," and in the parentheses it says Swami Shankara chant. Mind nor intellect nor ego feeling, sky nor earth no metals am I am He, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. Father, mother, no birth, no death, no caste have I, Father, mother have I none, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. Beyond the flights of fancy, formless am I, permeating the limbs of all life, I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. Bondage I do not fear, for freedom I do not care, for I am free, I am free, I am He, I am He. And those of you who have Songs of the Soul, I lent it to someone, and I still don't have it back. But Songs of the Soul, the book of poems, there's also an even longer translation of Swami Shankara's chant. So, I would like to share now the Sanskrit with you. The verses can be chanted in that meter. Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham nacha shrotra jive nacha grana netre nacha bhyoma bhumir natejo navayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. It has a rhythm like that. Nacha pranna sanyo nave panchavayu navak sapta dhatur nava panchakosha navak parnipada nacho pustapayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. Name dvesha raga name lobha moha madonai vamenai vamatsarya bhava na dharmo na charto na kamo na moksha chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. And it goes on like that. I am not a Sanskrit scholar, and I cannot translate Sanskrit directly from Sanskrit. These translations that I have, however, I've pieced together from Paramahansa Yogananda's writings in Bhagavad Gita, because almost all of these terms are terms that we find in Bhagavad Gita, in Shankya philosophy, in the Upanishads, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras, and you start to learn them in that sense. So, for example, the beginning, Mano Buddhya Hankara is mana, mano, is manas. Buddhya Hankara, chittani naham. So this comes from, in Patanjali and in other sources, that and all of these things are elaborated on in Paramahansa Yogananda's Bhagavad Gita commentary. All of it is there. It's also in the Holy Science. Swami Yukteswarji elaborates on these points. And also in the SRF lessons, there is a reference to these things. So manas, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, these four things are like very, very deep things that start to explain who we are. Manas is mind. Sometimes it's referred to as the lower mind. Then there's buddhi, which is this pure intellect that also the word Buddha comes from it. So buddhi, this ability to discern and to understand. Ahankara is ego, but not in the sense of like a certain personality trait. It is the deepest expression of individuality, that I am the doer, I am this. And chitta, which is a big word, an all-encompassing word, that is, sometimes it's translated as mind stuff in the old days. Sometimes it is simply just translated as feeling. Now, it's misleading because it doesn't mean emotions. Think of when you say something like, I have a feeling. I just have this feeling about something. Or the ability to feel sometimes is more connected to intuition, like the way we use it in English. It's like, I feel the divine presence in this place, in this holy place. I feel it. See, it's not exactly feelings. You know what I mean? Like we would say feelings, like, oh, you hurt my feelings. So, chitta can also be translated as consciousness. The whole of our ability to receive intuitive perception, to become conscious, aware, to feel. So it's a big word. It's a big word. In Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the second verse is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodham. Yoga is the removal or the cessation of this whirlpool of chitta. It's there again. So chitta is a big word, chittam. So right away in this verse, what Shankara is doing is he is saying, I am not this. So you'll hear na and naham, nacho, like this. I am not, I am not, I am not. Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham. I'm not. So I am not the mind. I am not the intellect. I am not ego. I am not this ego consciousness, this feeling consciousness, chitta. Nacha shrotra jive nacha grana netre. I am not touch, hearing, taste, smell, nor sight. Okay, the five senses. Nacha vyoma bhumir, na tejo na vayu. So we have vyoma. These are elements. Bhumir, earth. Tejo comes from tejas, like fire. Vayu is wind. He's saying, I'm not the elements. I'm not the elements. Speaking of the fire element, we have all of the elements except water right there. Na chavyoma bhumir na tejona. So first verse, Shankara is saying, I am not this thing. I am not the elements. I am not the senses. I am not this. Negative renunciation. But sometimes it feels good to cut these things away, to remind ourselves what we're not, and especially in the drama of life, in the chaos of life, when all these things are going on. I am not this. I'm not this problem. I'm not these fears. I am not this. You know, that's how we talk to ourselves sometimes. And that's a part of renunciation. But it's not the only part. Where does the joy come? The joy comes in Shankara's affirmation and statement. Chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. And he says that in every single line. And so that's what the Nirvana Shatakam is. It is first neti, 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 neti. I'm not this, I'm not this. And Adi Shankara does it in the most profound way, because his mind, his consciousness was beyond human comprehension. We can't even scratch the surface of where his consciousness, where his mind existed and rested. And so he distilled our existence to the core of everything. So with his eraser, he's going right at the root of everything. And when he's done, when he's done with this Ashtakam, he's erased everything. You do not exist. You are annihilated, which is Nirvana, right? And this was happening in India after the spread of Buddhism. Not the Buddhism of today, but the Buddhism back then was very different. And it was spreading. And it became very much an emphasis on Nirvana. And it had what we would call a nihilistic kind of a flair. It was almost annihilating everything, right? But here, Shankara affirms then. He switches to the positive and says, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. That is the tremendous difference of, and that is his Advaita. That is the Advaita is that I am none of this. Now a lot of people stop there. I am not this. What are you left with? Nothing. But then he says, I am not this. I am Chidananda Rupa. Chidananda, blissful consciousness. Rupa is form or manifestation. And then Shivoham, Shivoham. I'll only spend a little time on this. I'm not trying to make this a theology class, but to say I am Shiva with a capital S, like the Shiva that we see at the lodge. In Song of the Morning Lodge, there's a beautiful murti, an image of Shiva, Lord Shiva, meditating with his beautiful jata and the king of cobras around and all of the symbols. That is Shiva, or the Shiva Lingam, or Shiva as a manifestation of God. Shiva is God. God is Shiva. There's no translations can get so confusing. I don't want to go into that. But in this, there's another meaning of the word Shiva. Shiva is also a word. It has a meaning. In Sanskrit, from what I have read, and also Yogananda touches on it, it can mean good, benevolence, blessedness. And so that is why it's interesting that Yogananda's translation is saying blessed spirit, right? Blessed spirit. I am he, this blessedness, this benevolence. Do you know how sometimes in Old English we would you'll see the word good is being used with a capital G, right? It almost has like a holiness to it. Good. Like all that is good. God is good. You know, this idea. What is good? Goodness. It's not a judgmental word. It's sort of like this goodness that just pervades everything and everywhere, like a goodness of sort. And so that is the spirit behind this Shivoham. So it's not necessarily that saying I am God. Some will take this and say Shivoham is saying I am God, I am God, I am God. But it may also be saying that my form is this blissful spirit, Chidananda. Shivoham is I am spirit, I am good, I am this goodness. So it's a very deep word, and I just wanted to point out that it doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't translate to saying like I am Shiva, the form Shiva, or that I am God in that sense. Although there are some schools if you looked at it from like a monotheism, then there's no separation, right? So, but anyway, going on, I want to focus on the spirit of this chant, which is also the renunciation of it. So how wonderful. Think of all your problems, think of everything that's going on. And I have sung this song so many times, it gives so much consolation. To cut away and to remind myself what I'm not and what I am. I'm not mind, I'm not intellect, not ego, feeling, consciousness, this citta. I am not the five senses, I'm not the five elements. I am Chidananda Rupa, I am blessed, conscious bliss, spirit. Next. Nacha prana sanyo na vei panchavayu. I am not prana, I am not life force, I am not prana. Nor the panchavayu, the five vayus, the five forms of breath or in the body. Nava sapta dhatur. Sapta dhatur. Now we finally get to the metals that I always wondered about in the song. Where does metals come into this? Sapta dhatur are the 7 metals. Sapta and dhatur. And it is 7 metallic substances that are in the body, that make up the body. Pancha kosha, the 5 koshas. Navakparni padam nachopastapayu. I am not the bodily instruments of elimination, procreation, motion, holding or speaking. Now, this verse is connected to, you will see in Sankhya philosophy, and also if you read in the Holy Science, you may come across sometimes like the 24 tattvas, the 24 principles of what make up the body. You have the astral body, the causal body, the physical body. That whole science, and it's a tremendously advanced, genius perspective of our body, of our existence. Here, Shankara is just encapsulating that and erasing it from our identification. So I am not prana, I am not life force, I am not the 5 types of breath and the subtle pranas, I am not the 7 bodily metals, I am not these 5 sheaths of consciousness, the koshas, I am not the bodily instruments and all of the functions of the body. I am Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, Shivoham. Next, Name Dvesha Raga, Name Lobha Moha. Dvesha and Raga, you'll see these terms in Bhagavad Gita. Dvesha is attachment or attraction. Raga is aversion or repulsion. When the words are put together, Dvesha Raga, it is showing this polarity of our human experience, which is sort of like likes and dislikes. I like this, I don't like that. So this is not non-attachment in the higher sense of renunciation. This is the fickleness of the ego. I like this, I don't like that. Name dvesha raga, lobha moha, madonaiva menaiva matsarya bhava. Lobha and moha, these are also qualities of the ego you will see in Bhagavad Gita. Lobha is greed. Moha is sort of like the confusion, this illusory way that we think about things. Mada, pride, this sense of egotism. I am none of these. And matsarya, which is this jealousy and envy. So in these lines, he's showing these qualities. So again, so wonderful, right? Once you erase these things, automatically, right, you start to feel a little bit better. I have no aversion or attraction to anything, no likes and dislikes, none of this coming and going of ego this and ego that. Not greed, not delusion, not ego pride, not envy, not jealousy, all of this stuff. Then he brings forth a very challenging point here. Na dharmo, na charto, na kamo, na moksha. He says, I'm not dharma. You say, how can you not be dharma? Well, here he's talking about the 4 pillars of life, which are these purushas, these dharma, artha, kama, moksha. The 4 pillars of life. Dharma, righteousness, divine duty, informs our choice of life, our career, our vocation, our wealth, our family, our growth. Kama, in this sense, it is just to enjoy life. It is not a negative thing like material desire. It's, why does nature make food taste good? Because we're supposed to enjoy things. Kama. And moksha, liberation, freedom from these things. So these are considered to be the 4 pillars of a balanced life. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. But here, Shankara is saying, na dharmo, na charto, na kamo, na moksha. No. Chidananda rupa, shivoham, shivoham. Next, na punyam, na papam, na saukyam, na dukkham, na mantro, na tirtham, na veda, na yagya. I am not punya or papam. Punya and papam is virtue and vice, like punya and pap. Again, each one of these can be elaborated on, but it's basically this idea that I have accumulated certain virtues or certain merits, or I deserve certain good things in life, like good karma kind of things. But papam are sort of like the vices, the virtues, the demerits, the things that I've done in life that make me indebted, which some of us may call like bad karma. So he's saying, na punyam na papam, I'm neither of those. Na punyam na papam, na saukyam na dukham, and the happiness and sadness that is associated with that sort of dualistic, up and down, mood swing kind of a life. Then, this is where Shankara starts to get, remember when I said, okay, can you renounce the things that are dear to you? That's where it starts to get tricky, right? So here he says, na mantro, na tirtam, na veda, na yagya. Not mantra, not tirtha, which is pilgrimage. Not Veda, the knowledge from the Vedas. Na yagya, all of the sacred rituals and sacrifices. Wow. Na mantro, na tirtam, na Veda, na yagya. Then he says, aham bhojanam naiva bhojam na bhokta. Here he says, I am not the one who's eating the food. I'm not eating the food. I am not the process of eating, nor am I the food itself. Right? So this is a very philosophical thing. The three things, right? Me, I'm eating, the act of eating and digesting, and the food itself. We also find these similar things in referring to meditation, when it says, the meditator, the act of meditation, and the object of meditation, or the goal of meditation, become one. Right? So, same thing. Aham bhojanam neva bhojam na bhokta. Chidananda rupa shivoham, shivoham. No birth, no death, no caste have I. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother, have I none. Father, mother, have I none. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. Mind nor intellect, nor ego citta. Mind nor intellect, nor ego citta. Sky nor earth, nor metals am I. Sky nor earth, nor metal am I. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. I am he, I am he. Blessed Spirit, I am he. This is a continuation of the Nirvana Shatakam, this chant, I am he, Blessed Spirit, coming from the text by Adi Shankaracharya, or Adi Shankara, or Swami Shankara. And before I had to go for a phone meeting, which I had to attend, as you know, many of you know, everything seems to be happening within the home these days, and so I know you all understand what it's like. You're doing one thing, and you have to do this, and then you have to do that, and I think in one sense we have more to do in one place. And I especially want to acknowledge those of you who are raising children and who are dealing with, schooling at home and work and all these other things. My pranams to you. Speaking of sacrifice and renunciation, right? That's part of the essence of this chant. And sacrifice and renunciation comes easily when there is love. And that is certainly what is the driving force for parents, for their children. And that's a really powerful example of how love can completely change renunciation and sacrifice. So continuing with Shankara, Adi Shankaracharya is with the eraser is just one by one. I am not this. I am not this. I am not this. I am not this. I do not have this. I do not have this. but at the same time reaffirming the truth that Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. I am eternal bliss, conscious bliss, this Chidananda. And Shivoham, I am spirit, or I am this divine blessed goodness that is Shiva. Na me mrityu shanka, na me jati bedha, pita naiva me naiva mata na janma, na bandhur na mitram gurur neva shishya. These now are shifting to relationships. So we began with so much of our psyche, of the core of our being, with mind, intellect, manas, buddhi, ahankara, ego, and chitta, and all of the elements and the subtleties of our body. Then to more functions of the ego, attachment, likes and dislikes. I like this, I don't like that. The greed, envy, jealousy. But also he begins to insert these other elements that we consider to be sacred, right? And like I said, renouncing something that we don't like is hardly renunciation. Certainly we want to rid ourselves of things that are disagreeable. Maybe we don't like something, certain quality about ourselves, and we're trying to let go of that. So yes, we need that strong renunciation to kind of push away, to cut away, and we're trying to do that. But what about renouncing something that we like, or that we are identified with? So now it's coming to relationships. I mixed it here. So, Name Mrityu Shanka, Mrityu is death. So I am not death. And Shanka is like the doubts or something to that effect of what is caused by death, or the feeling that we have about death. Not that. Mrityu Shanka. Name Jati Bedha. Jati is like your place in society. That could be your vocation, like if you're born into a family of doctors, then you're going to be a doctor. It can be also viewed as somewhat of a status or a place, and you feel like almost like a clan identification, like this is my people, or this is my vocation, or this is my place in society. What comes with that also is beda, which is like prejudice, discrimination. Of course, that manifests nowadays. We see it with the more diversity that we have. We are faced with more difference. We are faced with something that is different, and so there's even more prejudice and more division. There's also an opportunity for more unity. So here, in one line, again, Adi Shankara going to the core, the fundamentals of our existence, saying that there is no this death and the doubts created with that, or this dread, nor is there any identification with jati. In the old days of translations, jati was translated to caste. Sometimes varna was also translated to the word caste. There's a movement happening now in India, and also amongst the Indian community within America and some other places outside of India, to reclaim some of these original words that are sacred, part of the scripture, and to reclaim them and redefine, reclarify what their meaning is. And one of them is jati. There's a perspective now that there are many Sanskrit words that are non-translatable. They just can't be translated. And during the colonial time, there was no regard for them, so it was just basically take it and translate it. And so that word caste, which is sadly become almost synonymous with India or with the Hindu religion. So that is why Yoganandaji used that term. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother have I none. And it's true in that sense of caste, any kind of place in society, to throw it. But more specifically here, I think it's important to emphasize the word that Shankara is using is jati. And jati is specifically related more to a place, your placement in society, and that can be by vocation, by your clan, by your family name, perhaps your ancestry, etc. Especially in these older indigenous civilizations where everything was like contained, you didn't have like the diversity that we have in America. And so it was a very simple thing, jati. It didn't have the connotations that we see nowadays. The term caste is actually from the Portuguese, and the Spanish established that word casta, and kind of imposed that. And so the colonial mind that looks at India sees these types of things. But in truth, if we just say caste, a lot of people today will say, oh, that's just something that happens in India, or that's just some kind of a Hindu thing. That's not true. And also, then you're going to miss what Shankara is trying to say about you, because all of us have jati, all of us have a place in society, and what comes with that can also be a little bit of the family pressure or the expectations of society of what you are, what you should be. And yes, that can give advantage and give you a sense of support, but it can also give you some restraints, right? So that's something that we can all relate to. So what Shankara is trying to identify is things more related to our relationships with society and with other people. So he's saying about death, then he's saying jati, your place, your this status or this identification of your place in society. Then he's in the next line, Pita naiva me naiva mata na janma. Not father, not mother, nor birth, janma. Na bandhur na mitram. Not relative nor friend. Guru rene vishishya, guru and disciple. So again, he's going to the core of our of who we identify, who we think we are. And again, as I said, renouncing only things that we don't like is not a full renunciation and a full surrender. Even things that we love, a father and a mother, maybe we love our father and our mother, can we still offer them into this oneness, into this renunciation of love, of divine love, of saying, I truly, in my essence, I have none of these, I am none of these. This could possibly be interpreted in two ways of saying that I am not a father, I am not a mother, I am not these things, like identified with yourself, and also that I have none. So I have no mother, I have no father, I have no birth, but also I am not a mother, I am not a father, I am not a friend, I am not a brother or a sister or a relative, I am not a guru, I am not a disciple, or I have none of these. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. Again, meditate deeply and understand what these mean. The goal here is that Adi Shankara is identifying everything that we are not, only to glorify our true essence. And so this rejection does not necessarily have to be like an angry rejection. Like, oh, I'm casting away my mother and my father and my guru and all of these things, and oh, there's no gurus and there's no disciples. It may take that mood, but it also may be more of a reverence for what those are in our lives, but also this offering and this surrender of saying, let it go. And that's where I would like to come back to the real life that we're experiencing right now in the pandemic, or which is more of an intense time right now, of really looking at what the fears are. What does our ego grab onto and say, no, I don't want to let this go, or this isn't fair, or this isn't right, and why is this happening? Why can't we say, okay, yes, all of these things are special to me. All of these things are sacred even. And nevertheless, I'm going to offer them, to release them, and say, I I am the blissful self. I am spirit. That's the depth of what is being expressed here by Shankara. Na bandhur na mitram gurur neva shishya chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupo. So this is the first time where he's beginning with this aham, which means I am. Whereas before he's saying I'm not. And now it's ending saying I am. Nirvikalpo nirakara rupo. Nirvikalpo, as you recognize that from nirvikalpa samadhi, the highest samadhi, which is saying without difference or without this kind of oneness that has a without quality or without attributes or without any type of separation. Nirvikalpo nirakara rupo. Nirakara is formless. So saying that I am nirvikalpo. I am without any attributes, any qualities, any definitions, or any differences. And there's nothing that differentiates me. And I am without form. Nirakara rupo. Vibhur vyapta sarvartra sarvindriyanam. I am all pervading, omnipresent, eternal. Sadame samatvam namuktir nabandha. I have no desire for material bondage, bandha, like this grabbing. I have no desire to be bound anymore. And nor do I have a desire for mukti, for liberation. Ooh, this it just gives me chills. I have no desire for material bondage, nor do I have a desire for freedom from it. Why? Because I am free. The desire for freedom implies bondage, right? So to say sada me samatvam na muktir meaning not liberation, not freedom, na muktir na bandha, bondage, neither of those. He is, again, Shankara is transcending duality, going beyond all opposites, all dualities. Then he ends Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. So this song of renunciation and freedom can be sung in various moods, and it has been applied to music with different sentiments. I have often said that this can be sung with joy, and this can even be sung with almost like a fierce distaste for things. So let's think about an experience where maybe we feel angry because of just being like tired of this world, I'm tired of our own reactions and all of these complexities and unfulfilled desires and this and that, and like I wish I wanted this to happen but I can't. So you take all of that and just kind of like bottle that up. What do you do with it? What does the yogi do with it? And a wonderful thing is to be able to say, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not this. So usually what we do is we go, I don't care about this. Who cares? Oh, I'm so tired of it. I need a break, right? That's our way of sort of casting. I don't want to watch the news. I don't want to do social media. I don't want to see this person. I want to get away from all this. Give me a break. I'm so tired of this. And then we look for some escape, right? I just want to watch a movie, or I need to go out in nature, or I'm just going to chant, or I want some good food, or whatever. So that's what happens as soon as we vacate, as soon as we empty, well, we don't like emptiness either. There has to be something, even one flame of joy. But usually we fill it, whatever we empty, we fill up again with something else. Well, here on the deepest level, Adi Shankaracharya is removing, vacating everything, throwing it all out. And in that emptiness, there is no emptiness. He says, there is the bliss of my true being. And so this can be sung in that way of casting, of like freedom. I want freedom. I want to get away from this. And so with that, even if you're in a mood of anger or feeling bound or feeling restricted, I just want to break, you could sit down and read this or chant this. And just go through it. Mano buddhya hankara. You don't have to do it in the Sanskrit, but even reading it in the English. I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not the chitta, I am not ego. I have no father, mother, no friend, no place inside, no this, no that, no worries. I am not this body, I am not this pranas, I am not these things. I'm not worried about liberation or freedom. You can kind of go through this list, but if you only do that, it's going to feel very empty and it won't fulfill the deepest need, which is Sat Chit Ananda. And that is why the affirmation at the end, the positive affirmation, is Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, Shivoham. Chidananda. So once you clear everything, then you can chant Chidananda Rupa, Chidananda Rupa, Chidananda Rupa. And it has to go in steps. Adi Shankaracharya did not write all of the things that we are negating and letting go, and then at the very end saying Chidananda Rupa Shivoham, Shivoham. No, he is saying it throughout, because just as in the Kriya Yoga path, the way that Kriya Yoga is taught, and you also read this in Autobiography of a Yogi in the chapter on Kriya Yoga, he quotes a grandson of Lahiri Mahashaya, who said that the giveaway or the takeaway happens in conjunction with the take up. The give up and the take up happen simultaneously with something like a Kriya Yoga, where you are at once severing your ties with the material world, but at the same time you're feeling some inner connection with some inner existence. Another way of saying it that Yoganandaji said is, well, you will be attached to eating cheese, even if it's bad cheese, even if it's rotten cheese. But once you've tasted good cheese, you can easily let go of the rotten cheese. And then you just want that good cheese. So how can we do that, where we are forced to renounce something, and how do we have the give up and the take up? Well, that's why it's in steps. First, I'm going to let go of this, and then affirm, I am bliss, I am spirit, I am one with this. Then I'll try some more, and then affirm. And that's how it has to be, and that is why positive renunciation is very important. Bhakti, that devotion, if there is not a personal relationship, a meaningful, heart-centered concept of the divine, it's very, very difficult to do this. So to just renounce something in a cold, sort of bitter, negating renunciation is extremely difficult to do without simultaneously feeling some bliss. So as I said, love can make sacrifice and renunciation quite easy. So that is part of the secret of it. But love can be on the cusp sometimes of attachment as well. So that's why both of these, to affirm renunciation, to affirm freedom, but at the same time have a loving relationship with the divine. This can also be sung with joy, so that's the other thing. There can be a time where I'm tired of this stuff, let's, get out of here and get away from all this. The joy will come eventually. But also there's a time where you just feel so happy. And you realize, you have that moment of everything's going to be okay. This is not as bad as I think it is. I am going to overcome. Things are fine. I am actually so strong. That thing I was worried about is not that bad. I am stronger. So when that happens, you can also say, in a rejoicing way, like you're realizing it, I'm not the mind. I'm not this ego. I'm not these things of the consciousness. I'm not just this body and these senses and all of these functions. I'm not these things. I am bliss. There's something inside of me. It's my soul. Not all the relationships that I have with people. It's fine, but I'm so much more. So that's another way, the joyous renunciation. And that's why this song will have various melodies. So sometimes the song in Sanskrit will reflect that song. Mano buddhya hankara chittani naham nacha shrotra jive nacha ghani netre nacha bhyoma bhumir na tejo na vayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham nacha pranna sanyo nave panchavayu navaksapta dhatu nava panchakosha navak panipada nachopostapayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham name dvesha raga name lobha moha madoneva vinayva matsarya bhava na dharmo na chatto na kamo na muksha chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham. This reflects the strength of casting away, sometimes with tears. I don't want this. I'm not this. Freedom. I want to be free. It's a plead. It's an affirmation of coming from pain, and that's okay. That's part of it. But using that pain, that disappointment, the forsaken feeling, the trapped feeling, using that to then say, I am not these things. I am joy, I am joy, I am bliss, I am blessed. Even though I don't feel it, I know that's what I am, and I'm going to keep casting that. Now the joyous sentiment of this song can also be with the melody that Yoganandaji put. So I'm going to sing the English so we can hear now. Maybe I hope you have a new understanding of what of this chant now. No birth, no death, no caste have I. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother, have I none. Father, mother, have I none. I am He, blessed Spirit, I am He. I am He, blessed Spirit, I am He. Mind nor intellect, nor ego chitta. Mind nor intellect, nor ego chitta. Sky nor earth, nor metuzama. Sky nor earth, nor metuzama. I am He, blessed Spirit, I am He. 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 And you can continue singing that, and even use either from Songs of the Soul or from the original, this first edition, Whispers, that you can buy all of these books from Self-Realization Fellowship. They have a website. They ship very quickly to you. And you get this, and in the back, you can also read the Shankara chant in its entirety, and you can even sing it. I used to do that, Beyond flights of fancy, formless am I, permeating the limbs of all life, permeating the limbs of all life. I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. And you can play with it. He said, bondage I do not fear. So I said, I changed a little bit for myself. But that's just for my own doing. I put this all to music in English. And you can find that here or in Songs of the Soul. I'm sorry, I can't remember it because the name of it, because my copy of Songs of the Soul, my beloved copy that I've had since I was a teenager, I lent out to somebody. So set it to music or read it in that joyous sense. And again, I have read this for going through really difficult times, and it's not joyous. I'm not feeling an ounce of joy. I'm just tired and fed up. And I just sit down and I just sit in front of my altar with tears in my eyes, my blood boiling. Mind nor intellect, nor ego, nor chitta, nor sky, nor earth, nor metals am I. I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. No birth, no death, no caste have I. Father, mother have I none. I am He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. Beyond the flights of fancy, formless of I, permeating the limbs of all life, I am He, 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 etc. Or joyously. And if it calls to you to learn the Sanskrit, I encourage you and would support you with that. The only way that I could recommend now is from my album on my, it's called Sacred Chants of India, and it's called Nirvana Shatakam, and I sing it. And on the website, which is sangitayoga.com, there's a lyrics section, and I have the lyrics there with the translation in, with the transliteration to help you learn how to pronounce it. And I can also teach it, or Lopa can teach it, but we haven't filmed that kind of a class yet, but you can get in touch with us and we'll help you learn how to chant it in the Sanskrit. A melody that I composed was in a rag called Bhagyashri, and I put it in Bhagyashri, which is a very beautiful and very sacred raga that relates to the expansiveness of spirit, the greatness, this Mahan. Manobodhyahankara chetaninaham nacha shrotra jive nacha ghrani netre nacha bhyoma bhumir na tejo na vayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham na punyam na papam na saukyam na dukkham na mantro na tirtha na veda na yajna aham bhojanam neva bhojam na bhukta chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham, and so on. With the melody that Yoganandaji sang, he probably sang many melodies. It's common in India to choose a sacred text like this and have various ways of singing it depending on the moment and then on the occasion. It's not a fixed composition. But this is what it sounds like Manobodhankara chittani naham nacha shrotra jive nacha grani netre nacha bhyoma bhumir na tejo na vayu Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Nacha Pranna Sanyo Nave Panchavayu Nacha Pranna Sanyo Nave Panchavayu Navak Sapta Dhatur Nava Panchagosha Navak Panipadau Nacho Pustapayu Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Name Dvesha Raga Name Lobha Moha Name Dvesha Raga Name Lobha Moha Madone Vamenai Vamatarya Bhava Madone Vamenai Vamatsarya Bhava Na dharmo na charto na kamo na moksha Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Na punyam na papam na saukyam na dukkham na punyam na papam na saukyam na dukkham na mantro na tirtham na veda na yagya aham bhojanam neva bhojam na bhukta Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Name Mrityu Shanka Name Jati Vedha Name Mrityu Shanka Name Jati Vedha Pitane Vamenai Vamata na Janma Pitane Vamenai Vamata na Janma Na bandhur na mitram gurur neva shishya Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham Aham nirvikalpo nirakara Rupa Aham nirvikalpo nirakara Rupa Vibhurvyapta sarvatra sarvendriyanam Sada me samatvam na muktir na bandha Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham 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 Chidananda Rupaham Shivoham Shivoham. It is also said that Lahiri Mahashaya loved this song. I can't imagine any yogi not loving this song. So this chant is timeless. It is in every yogi tradition, but particularly in Advaita, Vedanta, because of Shankara. But many people sing it. It's not limited. I would say that even the bhakta can sing this song. It may seem a little bit impersonal because it's not naming. It is not naming in a devotional sense. But whatever is in the heart will certainly be able to connect with this. So that is my YogaFrost offering. I hope that this YogaFrost will truly warm your hearts and give you some inspiration, some encouragement, some fellowship during this time, and that it will allow you to carry that into whatever else you do, in all of your interactions and in your own sadhana, your own practice. Look forward to seeing all of you in person, maybe this summer, maybe not. I'm ready for anything, and we can hold on to these divine teachings to help us get through these times. You're not alone. We are bonded in spirit, and at any moment all we have to do is call upon the divine. And even when that's difficult, remember that you always have friends and community that you can call upon. Song of the Morning is always there. Other friends that you may have. Spiritual support is important during these times, and never feel hesitant to reach out, and me included, if you feel so. Even other ashrams like Self-Realization Fellowship, they have a number that you can call and talk to a spiritual counselor. So many places are wanting to make themselves available in service, and oftentimes we forget that we feel alone and we feel isolated, but we are making a sacrifice, and I hope that we can transform from the core of our being the way in which we are sacrificing and the renunciations that we are asked to do, that we can rise to the occasion and do it in this way. My pranams to all of you, and I hope that you have a wonderful YogaFrost weekend. Jai Guru, Jai Ma. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham 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 Mano buddhya hankara cittani naham nacha shrot prajive nacha ghrani netre nacha vyoma bhumir natejo navayu chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham 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 Nacha prana sanyo nave panchavayo navaksa pradhatu nava panchakosha navakpani pado nacho postapayo chidananda rupa Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidanandarupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidanandarupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidanandarupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidanandarupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. Name dvesha rago, name lobha moha, madoneva menaiva matsarya bhava, na dharmo na chartho, na kamo na moksha, chidananda rupa, shivoham, shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. Na punyam, na papam, na saukhyam, na dukham, na mantro, na tirtha, na veda, na yagya. Aham bhojanam neva, bhojam na bhokta, chidananda rupa, shivoham, shivoham. Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. Mrityu na shanka na me jati veda pita naiva me naiva mata na janma na bandhur na mitram gurur neva shishya chidananda rupa shivoham shivoham Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivoham. Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupa vibhur vyapta sarvatra sarvendriyanam sada me samatvam na muktir na bandha chidana